Alright, boys and girls, looks like we're live for Oz Fortress R13 Premier Division Round 2, Cash Money vs Massive Sundays. And with me, I have Campbell, and
Hello.
I have Air, although Air's currently muted.
I'm here,
and I have Brodogs
Hello,
doing the
guys.
camera work. Alright, boys and girls, where are we going to start?
I think the best place to start, if we're going to talk about it, let's go with, say, the returning champs from last season, Massive Saturdays.
Math. What a name, and what a great picture it must be said of. I think that's Brodogs laid out there on the stream for us to see.
Yeah, it is.
So, on this team, we've got Faith and Madless on Scout, we've got Geo and Soul on Soldiers, Mental Realm on Demo, and Darbs on Medic. And the changes from last season, Brodogs is no longer with us, rest in peace Brodogs. He's retired, Darb's taking up the Medigun beam, Mental Realm is playing Demo, and Faith has moved to Scout with JMH nowhere to be seen. So, thoughts on this lineup, lads? Maybe starting with, let's say, the big names. How about Madness for starters?
Okay, well, obviously Madness really showed his stuff last season. Really showed his stuff as one of the best scouts in the division, if not the best at the time. He can put out some insane damage and plays off the medic pretty well. He's probably one of the lead fraggers of Massive. I'm not going to say they're carry, but they do have a lot of other strong players in the roster, which we'll go through in a second. But I think Madness is really one of the dominant scouts in this division this season also.
Yeah, he's a bit like sort of their ace in the hole sometimes. I mean, their whole team is incredibly strong, but Madness last season in particular, and it seems like it's sort of carrying forward this season as well, it's pretty dominant. He's one of those people that's like, is incredibly reliable, and he's just going to pull random shit out of his ass and just do amazing things every time. So he's definitely a player to watch out for.
Madness, sick game impact, big fragger, puts out the damage, tends to play a little bit more of that come in and clean up kind of guy, really confident in dueling any heavy class in the game, which is what we love to see. Can go absolutely ham on Viaduct in particular, really dominant Viaduct game, and he had a great Snakewater game last our grand final. Can fall off a little bit if his soldiers aren't creating room, but that's something that he really progressed on last season, and he is one of the superstar players in this team, which is not to say the other players aren't great, but they do play around Madness and they play around his damage. So I suppose we move on to the other player that I would say kind of fits that role in this team, Geo, the pocket soldier. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, Geo definitely, again, one of the strongest pockets in the division. I've always thought Geo is a bit of an underrated player until at least last season. He's always been floating around Div 1 with Spadebox, all of those teams, Uprising, I think, or yeah, Upgrade and
Sunday Sesh as well.
yeah, Sunday Sesh. But yeah, Geo, he plays the sort of a more heal-heavy pocket, but he definitely can take it to full potential. He does insane amounts of damage. He's really relied on to the team. He has really good Ubers, and he is pretty much the centerpiece, I'd say, of Jasmine or Massive Saturdays, as they're now known.
Yeah, I mean, he's a bit of a rock. Yeah, he's another incredibly solid player. He takes the bulk of like pretty much every Uber, and he turns, like you said, he's a very heal-heavy pocket. Turns all of those heals into something like some massive damage numbers as well. So he's, yeah, I don't know if you remember, but last year, like in the finals, he really stepped up, and he turned his already really good game into even like better stuff. So I'm not sure about how he's been going this season. I've only had a chance to watch a couple Prem games, and I'm not sure I've really seen much more than their scrims recently, but I'm sure you guys know a bit more about that.
So, if Madness is the kind of guy that gets you 30 frags, he's the Forest, he sets you up to win the game. Geo's the guy that closes us out. Maybe not as reliant on his aim as Madness is, but great positioning, can just go completely ham and just body the server and get 40 kills. Really can go large for these Ubers. Two things I really like about Geo. The first one is that I think he's a very consistent player and he's very consistently improving. That's a big deal for me. Geo's like kind of power curve, his ability as a pocket has just slowly gone up and up and up, and it's never stopped. I never feel like he's hit a plateau. As long as he's wanted to take it more seriously, put more time into it, he's always there. And his Ubers, fantastic awareness of picking up enemy scouts. He's got that kind of rando-like quality. I want to blow the game open. I want to give my scouts the chance to fight enemies on low HP. So really strong, really consistent player, and yeah, definitely the guy that closes it out. Also, I think a great quality, he had a very clear combo set up with Faith. Faith, you're going to sit behind, you're going to play safe, you're not going to take too much damage, I'm going to be the one doing the greedy plays. And that worked really well for them last season, so it's going to be interesting to see how he works with Realm. So, I think we're on to Sol. Any thoughts on Sol?
Sol, he's definitely a really interesting player in the sense that, well, mainly in mid fights, I'd say he can really change the balance of the game. He's very effective on mid fights, especially mids like Badlands and Process and Snakeward. He can really get up in your grill, so to speak. He gets straight into a really good aggressive position, and sometimes it's really hard to deal with, especially his Badlands rollout gets really fast to your train, and he has sort of things that you need to work on as a team to suppress him doing really good damage and kills and being really effective against your team. But yeah, I think in terms of effectiveness in other situations, I think he's relied on Jasmine or MASIF to make sort of solo plays a lot, and they can come with varied results.
Yeah, to add to what you were saying about him on mid fights, as we all know, Process is one of those maps where roamers on mid can be particularly dangerous. It may be predictable that a roamer does the fast rollout into mid, but that doesn't mean you can always stop it or stop what he wants to do. And Sol is a huge fan of rocking up to mid as absolutely quickly as he can, alongside his demo, and just focusing the enemy, or whatever needs to be killed, he'll go for, or he'll set up the distraction, but he's always sort of in the fight, and he's always ready. Sort of, I don't want to say chuck his life away, because often he survives anyway, despite the fact that half the time he should be dead. But the fact that he's just sort of always available to do roamer things, even at the very beginning of a mid-fight, is a particularly dangerous thing that Cash Money might have to look out for, especially on the first map. I'm not sure how Sunshine plays out for Sol, because I've only seen him on it once. But even then, I'm sure he'll find a way to be pretty dangerous.
The bedrock. Every team needs an entry man. Every team needs an initiator. Every team needs a player where you talk about him and you go, that guy is really, really consistent. We know what we're going to get out of him every game, and that is Sol. When his team's having a bad day, when the struggles are on, his game impact seems to be there. And I don't want to talk too much about that because it's going to sound like we have nothing else to talk about, but consistency is the cornerstone of Sol's game, and it is a hugely important part of effective roamer. This guy is the man. Like, you know what you can count on with Sol. And if it wasn't for somebody like Sol, who's going to be like, I'm going to set Madness up, I'm going to set Geo up, I'm going to take the pressure off the demo, this team wouldn't function. So he's really critical to their play, and a very effective roamer, even if he's maybe not as flashy or as brutal and DM focused as somebody like Epps is. So move on to, I think, the new additions. Well, new additions in a sense to MASIF. So we've got Faith on Scout, and we've got Mental Realm on Demo. How about we talk about Faith first? Any thoughts? Both of you, I think, are better positioned than I to talk about Faith on Scout.
Well,
I'll let you take it away.
Oh, okay, never mind. Well, the last, I've played a couple seasons with Faithless recently, but he's been on Demo. The last time he played Scout sort of full time for a team would have been except for like little sort of week-long teams that have occurred during the off-season. Probably he played scout for a bit in Retro 6 back when his team won Division 3. That lasted a few weeks, and he switched to demo. That's when he started playing that, and then before that he was one of the core scouts on V3 who won the AL8 Div 6 Grand Finals. So he's a bit of an unknown quantity in that respect right now. I mean, his aim is solid, but in terms of his sheer effectiveness, I don't know how his recent more high-level demo play will translate to him being able to sort of do a scout's job consistently. I mean, I'm sure he'll be fine, but there is, like, I'm just not sure, like, how consistent he'll be or how well he'll sort of impose himself on the game. Because, I mean, there are similarities between how a demo and a scout play, but when you're up against a team like Cash Money, sometimes you need to actually be playing scout, not sort of scout like a demo might. He's been scrimming pretty hard. He's been practicing well recently. So I'm sure he'll surprise at the very least. But in that respect, yeah, I'm not really sure how sort of well he's going to play, especially considering he's replacing Jamie, who's a lifelong scout main apart from Pugs. So I don't know how that transition's been going for them. Have you guys got any more on that?
I've played back when Faith was mainly scout at the start. I think his aim can be up there with the top, but when you take into account that he's replacing Jamie, who's such a strong support player on their team, and you know Jamie never really pulled out the massive logs or anything. He did have his days, but he's just such the rock of MASIF or Jasmine last season, just as the sort of backup support player who really just does it for the team in terms of, you know, playing with the medic, defending players, following up frag. But what I know of Faith Scout play is that he's very aggressive and he likes to be more of that aggressive role and try and use his aim to aggressively take the frags, which I'm not sure how the different playstyles will fit in to this current lineup, and we'll just have to wait and see how that turns out.
I can't comment much on Faith as scout, but I will assume that he is mechanically quite proficient as he was on demo, and I'll just kind of add some observations from what I saw of him on demo. He really fit into the Jasmine, now MASIF system really quickly. He understood, as I said with Geo, I'm going to kind of play to support you. So I'm expecting him to fit very quickly into whatever new system MASIF has. He's going to know where he's going to be. He's going to know what plays he needs to make. He's going to know what he needs to do. The question for me is, when I thought about Faith, I thought his decision making on demo was really, really solid consistently. But when he did make mistakes, and they weren't often, but when he did make mistakes, they tended to be at like maybe the worst possible time for him to make a mistake. So I think as long as his decision making is consistent and it has a good logic behind it, which I'm pretty sure it will, he'll be fine. I think he's going to be one of the players you want to watch this season to see how he's going to grow and how he's going to progress as a player, because as we'll talk a little bit about with Realm, if he really goes big, if he steps it up, he steps his mechanics up to a notch above what he was on demo and he fits into the system as well as he did on demo, he could be the guy that puts MASIF over the edge. I mean, I'm hoping that he's going to do that. I think he definitely can. He has the ability. It's just does it come together? Sometimes you don't know. But MASIF are a pretty active team. They seem to care a lot. They seem to be pretty motivated. So I think he can do it. So that moves us on to the last player, Mental Realm. I have quite a bit I want to say about this guy, but I'll leave it to you two first.
Yeah, we'll be here for a while if Yukari goes first. Having heard a couple of his dissertations on Realmy before. I like my last season of TF2 was with Realmy as my demo man. And as well, he fit right into my team's playstyle. I'm not sure how he's been going with these guys, because sort of off the top of my head, the way they play is, or at least the way their demo last Faithless and before that Uloops played, it's quite different. they're both like Realmy, as far as demos go, is, I don't want to say passive, but he doesn't often lead the fight. If you want someone to just sort of be there and do ridiculous amounts of damage and not die ever, he's your man. But if you want someone to sort of take the charge and be the first into a fight as a demo, he's not. I'm sure he's good at it, but that's not his natural tendency. He sort of sits back, hits mad stickies and pipes, and he's dependable. He's never going to lose you a fight because he's just going to be alive the whole time. He'll get out with your med. He'll cover your backs as you engage if you're a combo or anything. Scouts, for example, he's always there. So in that respect, he's pretty good. I don't know how that'll hold up against a team with Scouts as an entire team as ridiculously deadly as Cash Money is probably going to be. That said, in terms of sheer experience and knowledge of the game, Realmy's up there. He's definitely at the very top. So he knows, and I'm sure he's able to adapt as a result of that if he needs to. I'm not really sure though. How sort of his team, because their recent roster changes have only happened a few weeks ago, especially the changes in meds and scouts. So I'm not sure how that system is sort of playing out. If it's something that's suited to Realmy, he'll be a monster. If it's not, he'll be slightly less of a monster, but he'll catch up anyway. What about you, Campbell? What do you think?
I think Realmy is one of the best demo men in Australia in terms of, his mechanics are solid. His DM is pretty amazing. His rollouts are quick. He's got reliable traps. He's a really consistently good and brings out the damage demo man. But I think, as you've said, his playstyle is a lot different to some of the other demos you might see, and I will call it a passive style. He likes to sit behind the pocket, and he doesn't like to die very much in a game. He will position himself. I think there's a line of a lot of demos will position themselves aggressively to the point where they can position themselves too aggressively and die, and other demos will position themselves where they could have a larger impact on the game damage wise and be safe, or they can position themselves in a place where they will not die 99% of the time and they will do the damage, but they also aren't living up to their full ability. And it's up to Realm to fit in this team and be confident with Geo's ability, Geo and I guess Faith's ability to protect him in more risky, quote unquote, risky positions, and so he can assert his dominance over teams a bit more and just really show us what he's made of.
I think Realm is about as complete a demo as you're ever going to get. And I use that term complete because there's a really specific thing I want to talk about with Realm. His rollouts are good. Everything about him is really good to exceptional. The problem with Realmy, and it's something that I really want to see out of him, because I think more than anything it's going to be what's going to get MASIF over the line. It's going to be the factor that says we're going to convincingly beat Cash Money, is that X factor in demo. And the best way I can kind of explain this is two examples in Platinum and in Duatna. So there was a beautiful post on Team Fortress TV. I don't know if it's there anymore, but it basically said you play against Banny and he gets 5 kills and you go, oh my god, Banny is just the best demo in the game. You play against Platinum and you want to punch your monitor and you want to shout, how the hell did he do that? Just knowing your moment to go forward and push forward with all of the explosive power demo has at its potential, and just go completely ham and just screw logic, I'm demo, I can just body everyone in the server. I haven't really seen Realm do that. I've seen Realm sit within his system, which is the safe, reliable demo, incredibly hard to kill, great pipes, great mechanics, good damage. I've never seen him step out of that kind of shell and just body the server. And I know that he can do it. I've seen him do it in scrims. I've played against him when he's done it. This is a guy that can do it, but hasn't seemed to be able to deliver that kind of really dominant performance in a big stakes game. And in a lot of ways, I do feel his story is a little bit like Duatna. He used to play the pocket demo. He used to play the give me the heals, I'm the battleship, I'm going to smash everyone, I have amazing stats. moves into a more aggressive team with more aggressive heal-hungry soldiers, and Scouts kind of takes more of a back role. And we saw that Duatna couldn't really fit into Freotech's system at I-52 for a fair bit. His Badlands performances, they weren't the Duatna we know now. But along came Gullywash in the final against Epsilon, and Process was, you know, Freotech won it 4-1, pretty solid win for them, and Duatna went crazy. He exploded. He was just like, you know what, I'm sick and tired of not being the most dominant player in this. I'm going to go ham. I'm going to crush everyone. I'm just going to be amazing. I'm going to stuff Europe so far in the bin that, like, we're laughing at them for weeks. He went nuts. If Realm can do that, if Realm can even capture 5 minutes of that Duatna-like form where he says, I am Realm, hear me roar, I would even bet on MASIF. Because this guy really can do it. And I want it. I'm really enthusiastic. I want to see it happen. Like, I'm not calling him out because he's a great player and he deserves to be here and they can win with him playing as he is now, but I really want to see him go that extra step further. And I'm getting kind of excited about this because the potential's there. I just want to see it happen. I want to see it convert. Right, okay. So, are we going to talk about the meds, or are we going to maybe put that to the side a bit because that's an issue all of its own and talk about cash money? Maybe cash money?
Let's have a talk about cash money first, and then we can come back to the meds.
Let's start with Yuki because he'd prefer it if we always started with him. Any thoughts?
I mean, what can you really say? It's Yuki. Like, he was, what, the best pocket in the world by a sizable margin.
Call out!
I have some Aussie pride too, so I'm gonna say that every time. But he was insane. His mechanics are ridiculous. His experience is ridiculous. Everything is somewhat ridiculous. The only thing that I can even sort of kind of think to call into question is the fact that he's not on pocket or demo. He's actually on scout. However, having seen him play scout in the recent weeks and months and year, he doesn't seem to have lost much of that edge. He has even more sort of freedom of movement and like just ability to like run around and wreak havoc everywhere. Just because he's, he doesn't have to like jump anywhere. He doesn't lose health for moving around. He just runs around and kills shit. Like, I don't know. I've seen him play recently. He's been a bit ridiculous. He's a bit of a monster. I'm not sure what else you can say, like, in that respect. I just don't know. Like, you guys will have more insight on this, especially you, Yukari. I know you're quite passionate about this one. But just, like, can he impact the game as ridiculously as he can on his two other classes that he regularly plays? I think he can, but we'll see that tonight. Anyway, so, yeah, what about you dudes?
Can my answer to the question just be yes, it's Yuki, and leave it at that? Like, he's like, get right. If he has a bad game, you're going, what the hell? It just shouldn't happen. Like, Yuki's a monster, end of story, go home. Like, everything about him on every class is really, really good, and he's been dominating in the scrims. He should dominate now. If he doesn't, he'll be mad at himself, and if he doesn't, Cash Money can lose. That's as simple as it is. Yuki on any class, text, go home. Sorry, Campbell.
Well, yeah, I think we've pretty much said everything that needs to be said about Yuki.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how about we talk about soldiers, I think. So we've got Putty, and any thoughts? About what? Okay, Zaka, to be fair. I probably completely mispronounced that.
Yeah, I'm not even sure how to pronounce Putty. Is it Putty or Putty? Anyway, yeah, he's another... I mean, you can see some strong similarities between his style of play and Geo's on Pocket. They're both monsters of the game, and Putty is just another massive name and massive like player to sort of be playing. It's just full of them, right? And then he's something ridiculous. I can't say that he's as ridiculous as Yuki on Pocket, but he's another juggernaut of the game. He's got his... I mean, in recent games in particular, he has been putting out some staggering numbers and some staggering stats. They're not all that you can judge by, but they do not paint a pretty picture for anyone who has to play against him. It's pretty ridiculous, honestly. Like, he's got insanely good aim and DM in general, and his decision making is top notch. His only fault sometimes can be that he tries to do everything himself, but then he's got a team full of such experienced players that they will know when to cut in and, help him wreck stuff instead of him having to do it all on his own. What about you, dudes? What do you think?
I think we shouldn't forget, not to discredit anyone else on his team, but last season he pretty much, I'm going to say single-handedly to a degree, took it to Jasmine on, I think it was a Viaduct game, and just completely bodied their entire team, just with insane damage and so many frags. I think it was a really good description of Putty Ozaka by Air as a juggernaut. He takes just as many heals as he can possibly get, and he converts it straight into damage. His DM is incredible, and I'm going to say he's easily top 3 pocket soldiers in Australia, if not the second best. And it's going to be really interesting seeing him versus Geo in some Ubers and just general impact on the game, because they have pretty similar playstyles, but I think Putty Ozaka takes it to the next level.
I think actually comparing these pocket soldiers is a really good way to do them justice, because they're both really good and they have unique qualities. And the way I would kind of put it down is, I feel like Geo has a better system. I feel like Geo is always at home with his team and what's going on and how he's going to play, how many heals he's going to get, all that kind of stuff. Now, I think Putty is a little bit mechanically sharper. I think that Putty, I don't know, I think he can go a little bit bigger in the fragging, the aiming, but I don't think he fits into a system as well. Putty is, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but he plays as a pocket soldier. It's all about me. You make space, I'll get 35 kills, we'll all go home with a gold medal. That's Putty's mentality, and that's effective. Is it going to be effective in a team full of players that can all be superstars? From what I've seen, the logs, the scrims, talking to players, it doesn't look like it so far. So there's a lot to be said for finding your role and finding your system. And I think that Geo knows exactly where he needs to be and what's required of him. And Putty, while he may be a little bit more mechanically sure of himself, and believe me, the distance here is so small because they're both such great players, it's a question. Is Putty going to look confident playing pocket in this team? Is he going to struggle to play with the team he's in? Because he's always traditionally played in a team. It's all been about him. Now he's playing in particular with Yuki and Termo. Those are two players that love to have a team play around them. So it should be really interesting to see how Putty goes this season and how he goes in this match. So now we're on to Eps. Any input on the roaming soldier?
Eps, I haven't seen him roam too much apart from last season. I think he's definitely incredibly strong mechanically. I mean, he's played pocket soldier to an extremely high degree. I mean, these three players on Cash Money, Zucker, Yuki, and Eps are just all incredible pocket soldiers, and they obviously have an incredible understanding of the game. Eps, I think his DM is really probably the best thing about him. Also, his ability to be aggressive at the right times, especially on mid fights, and just his playmaking ability. He's a player that can definitely clutch it out for his team, which is really important for roamers. And apart from that, I mean, I really haven't seen too much of him roaming, so I'll let you guys take it away.
Just as a note, it looks like players from both teams are starting to join the server, so if we can get the STV details and that out there, and we can try and finish this up.
Yeah, alright. I'll race through what I think of Eps. Pretty good. Probably stop there, to be honest. I mean, as a pocket, he's ridiculous. As a roamer, he's still ridiculous. But he has recently not been playing the game as much, so his rockets may not be as sharp as is sort of expected. He's still going to be an incredibly dangerous player to. You have to always be on your game and always wary with Eps sort of lurking around the corner. He's always going to be there and attacking you and in your face when you sort of least expect it. and that is not a pleasant place to be when you're on the other team. I mean, like the other team is incredibly and like very up to the task of like dealing with him, but you still have to do it. You still have to be able to shut him down, especially when he's got the support of his team behind him at all times. So, what do you think, Yukari?
I think he's a lot like Putty. He takes a pretty brute force approach to the game. I'm just going to kill you because I'm a better player than you are. That's a lot of Eps's Roma game. It's good. It's very effective. I think he was the strongest Roma last season, and he was really dominant. But, as you pointed out, he hasn't been playing the game as much. And I would like... There's a lot you can say about Epps, but it all really does come down to that single factor. How much is he playing the game? He is not the sort of person that shows up to a server playing... 5 hours of TF2 in the last month and dominates. He's not that kind of a player. He's a very studious, hard-working player. He needs to put the time in. I think if he puts the time in, he's going to go ham again. It's going to be his season. If he doesn't, I don't know. Is he going to be able to compensate maybe for a little lacking in mechanics? It's really hard to say. So, on the last combat class, while players are getting in the server, I guess we can talk about Prime. Any thoughts?
I'll do it really quickly. Prime, he's an incredible player in general of all of his classes. Scout is no exception. He's an incredible scout. He's got crazy aim, really aggressive player. Can follow up on his Roma really well. But last season, I feel he dropped off a little bit with maybe his team not putting in as much time as they did at the start of the season, and his aim, I think, noticeably deteriorated a little bit. But I think if his aim is on, he can definitely be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that, to be honest. Primed is really, really, really good. Like, if he's on his game, a bit like Yuki in that respect, if he's on his game, he is something close to unstoppable. But if he's off his game, then you can take advantage of him somewhat. I mean, not in that way, you know what I mean? But, like, he's not as terrifying if he's, missing shots and shit, but, like, normally, on a good day, and he seems to have a lot of good days, he will wreck you the moment you're close. But MASIF scouts are, they're both, very capable of being up to the challenge. It just depends on how they all play tonight.
Thing I'd say about Prime is on an explosive class, this guy is a platinum superstar. He'll body the server. He'll just battleship him, play around him, play around Prime wants to do. He'll throw everyone against the wall. On Scout, not that type of a player. He's just not as dominant on Scout as he is on the explosive classes. He's still a very, very good player. The mechanics are all there, but yeah, I think the both of you kind of nailed it. He can fall off. He doesn't have the consistency that Yuki does on Scout. So, in particular, how much is he going to play this season? Because when he was quite active with, I think it was Wu. Was that what they were called at that time? When he was active with Wu, really strong player. Probably not to the heights that Yuki or Madness will bring, but still very, very good. Can he get there? We'll have to see in the server. All right, so that kind of takes care of... Have we missed any combat player?
Did we talk about Turmo?
Oh, yes, of course, Turmo.
Can you really miss him?
Yes, fair point. Anyone want to start? Because, I mean, we've got to leave the sledgehammer for last, don't we?
I mean, we talked about Yuki, and I think we can sort of talk about Turmo in similar terms to what we can say about Yuki. And Turmo is not even at the, if you can call it, the disadvantage of not playing his sort of main class. He is playing the class he's most at home on. He's going to go ham. Best demo of I-52, I believe, that he was called. If he brings that kind of game, even if he brings less than that, he is very, very difficult to stop. And, he just plays sort of the perfect demo. He just seems to always be in the right place at the right time to do everything. And even when he's in the wrong place, he still somehow survives because his sheer aim and mechanics are just ridiculous. Like he just, I don't know. I mean, he's a force of nature a lot of the time on demo, or he can be. Let's see if he brings that tonight. What about you two?
Tomo is the definition of next level in terms of mechanics and just as a player. He'll do things that you don't expect because other demos just simply don't have the ability to do it. He'll catch you off guard. There's no other way to deal with Tomo other than to play against him many times and get used to his playstyle, because there's no other demo in Australia that plays even remotely at his level, in my opinion.
Okay, there are probably a lot of CS players out there that know a guy called Device. Every other player at the top of European Counter-Strike says this guy is a mechanical machine. He's a tank, he's a crusher, he's a bulldozer, he's a sledgehammer, he runs everyone over. Don't let this guy in a server. Don't even play the game against him. He'll run over you in scrims. Tomo is the demo man at Device's level with just ridiculous mechanics. But when it came to the big pressure situation in I-52, Tomo showed up. Device chokes. Tomo doesn't. The other thing that I'd add on that is, like, when we talk about how mechanically ridiculous Tomo is, 4,000 hours of demo, muscle memory training out the wazoo, this guy really is that good. And yeah, he's delivered under pressure. The only question I think with Tomo is how's he going to work with Putty, because right now it looks like Tomo's the one that gets the priority, and if they can play around him, well, he's going to do what he did I-52. He's going to put up the most ridiculous numbers that this game has ever seen on a demo that wasn't like Banny at his peak or Randa, the old Epsilon demo. He's that mechanically stable. He's a nut job. So we are onto medics, but it does look like the game's about to start, or should be starting soon. So perhaps we can fit that medic discussion into the game.
I mean, they haven't actually started yet, so we could.
Yeah, okay, so how much can we cover? Let's maybe start with Darbs?
Yeah, so Darbs is the sort of, again, unknown quantity